guys, I have a great video for you today. I'm going to show you how to make homemade sourdough, how to start it, how to use it. If you follow my channel, you know that I'm all about doing things that are practical, finding ways to do things that are more inexpensive than the traditional way, easier than the traditional way. I want things that people can actually use and can actually do. So for me, when I started wanting to do sourdough, I looked it up like probably many of you have, and it is very complicated, very involved, very wasteful. And I started thinking, this doesn't really make sense to me because I know my grandparents and the people that lived through the Depression and they weren't wasteful. You know, the modern method, you throw away half of your flour and half of your dough. Every single day you have to feed this. You know, we live busy lives. We can't always be here. So how are we going to do this? Stick with me. This video might be a little lengthy because I want to show you everything that you need to know without having to go to 100 different videos. But you're going to be able to do this without throwing anything away, without having to feed every day. This is going to be super, super easy. You're going to want to learn how to do this. So just bear with me for a little bit while I explain everything that you need to understand. I know the process of making wheat, and I know that people have been using sourdough for thousands of years. It is the traditional method to make bread. So to me, it made no sense that somebody who would go out, sow a field by hand, plow it with mules, do all of this work, guard it for half a year while it's growing, you know, from marauders and wildlife, then harvest it by hand, thresh it, winnow it, grind it by hand to make a little bit of wheat that you would cherish so much just to throw most of it away so that you can have sourdough bread. Makes no sense. People did not do it. The modern method is not the way that it was traditionally done. So we're going to go back to the old way for something that just makes more sense. So all you need to do this is your jar. Glass works best. Something to cover it with. I had it, but it's just a little cloth that I have over it. I'll show you in a minute because apparently I didn't bring it with me. Something to stir. Some water. It has to be distilled, not tap water, because chlorine is designed to kill pathogens and bacteria, and that is what is working in your yeast. So you don't want to kill it. Don't use tap water. Use something that's clean. This is distilled water. So what you're going to do to get this thing started, to kickstart it, is you're going to want to use something that has some live active cultures in it, like buttermilk or yogurt. Now, for those who don't know how to make your own amazing homemade yogurt full of live active probiotics, because most of what you buy in the store has been pasteurized and the probiotics in it are actually dead and not doing you any good, you can go to my channel. I do have videos that show you how to do this. And again, super practical, super easy. You need no expensive equipment. So you're going to want to do that. That's what I'm using to kickstart my starter. Now you could buy a yogurt that has live active cultures in it. You could buy buttermilk that has live active cultures in it. I like my homemade yogurt because it's obviously got a lot more cultures in it than what you would get from the store. Plus, if you learn how to do this, you can make cream cheese from it and all kinds of other amazing things, and it's super easy. But that's what I'm starting with. So what you're going to want to do is start by putting some, oh, guess what? No measuring. We're going to eyeball everything. No measuring, no wasting, no discarding, no throwing away, no feeding every single day, no dying on you, because I'm going to show you how to preserve this indefinitely, where you can reactivate it. Just bear with me. You're gonna love me when I'm done with this. All right, so depending on the size of your jar, you know, you're going to put like half and half. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Don't put too much if your jar is smaller than mine. If you're using buttermilk, just use the buttermilk. But since I'm using yogurt and my homemade yogurt is very, very thick, like a Greek yogurt, I'm gonna cut it with some of the distilled water. So if you're using cultured buttermilk, you skip this step, don't do this. But if you're doing yogurt, then you're gonna wanna cut it a little bit because it's just a little too thick. And we're gonna mix that up until it's the consistency of like cream. Good. I probably put too much, but it's okay. We'll just make a big batch. All right. Maybe a little more water. No measuring. You can see it. I'm turning it back into like a milky, thick milk, like cream. So let's put that to the side. Now, you don't have to do this, but this will help it along. There is a seed. You can buy this anywhere that you buy spices, like turmeric or thyme or anything like that. It's called caraway. It has some elements to it, some natural enzymes that helps the process along. If you can't find it, if you don't have it, but it is pretty easy to find. It's okay. It will still work, but it will work a lot faster if you have some of this. So we're going to put a little bit of this in it. And this is a new bottle, so I never opened it. So I'm going to probably have problems and make myself look like an idiot while we're recording this. Oh, how about that? I took it off and there's another one. So, all right. Again, no science, just sprinkle a little bit. Put a few in there. Not a whole lot. It smells good. Stir them in. At this point, you're gonna just add your flour. It's that simple. Now, you can use any flour. It will work. Some flours will work better. Whole wheat will always work better than white flour. There are, natural yeast from the wild that are on the brand, which is what you're cultivating. You're capturing wild yeast and wild cultures and bacteria to grow in this, but mostly the yeast is gonna really come not just from the air, but from the actual wheat itself. So if you get a whole wheat, that's gonna always work a lot better. Plus there's more nutrients in there for the yeast to eat. So when you're making buttermilk, you're basically just cultivating or growing wild yeast instead of the ones that you buy in the store that have been laboratory altered and work really fast, but some people have problems with them, with their health. It causes like extra candida in the body. It's kind of hard to control it. And this just creates a different flavor and a different texture and a different kind of bread. Now, rye flour, whole wheat rye flour works amazing. It just loves it. It works good. I home meal my own flour. And if you do that, it works even better. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm using inkhorn and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of whole wheat spelt. So I'm going to do inkhorn and spelt. If you don't know what those are, inkhorn is the original wheat, the wheat that God created before any hybridizations took place. The process was inkhorn, then there was wild hybridization into emmer wheat, and then there was another wild hybridization into spelt. And then there was, I think in the 50s, a laboratory hybridization into what is the modern wheat, which has the complex glutens that makes everybody sick or gluten sensitive. So whenever you use spelt, especially if you sourdough it because it breaks down those glutens, people with gluten sensitivities can handle it better. But the further back you go, the more delicate the gluten is. It's completely different actually, and it's just a totally different wheat. Then people that are gluten sensitive, and most of them even gluten allergies, can actually handle the older flours. So you might want to look into that. So I do a lot. I am gluten sensitive to the modern wheat. I'm very chemical sensitive to a lot of things. So I use a lot of the inkhorn wheat, which is the original wheat, which doesn't bother me at all, causes no inflammation when the other ones do. I also use a little bit of spelt, but spelt with sourdough, because then that breaks it down and makes it a little easier to digest. So having said all of that, I'm going to use those because that's mostly what I use in my flours. Plus it really, really likes the original wheat, just like me, and it makes a good sourdough starter. So what I'm going to do is just put enough of each. And the reason I'm mixing this is because, yeast want to eat different things like we do, and the different nutritional profiles will just give it a little bit more to work with. You're gonna wanna stir this in and add what you need until you get the consistency of basically pancake batter, maybe a little bit, tiny bit thicker than pancake batter. And once you do that, we need a little bit more. And I'm gonna probably have to pause you for a second while I open up the spelt flour. Or maybe fast forward you so you don't have to wait for me because I didn't get it out. The inkhorn, I just milled. The spelt, I did not. It is older. So let's put a little bit of that. Okay. Stir it in. We're gonna put our loose lid. All right, now we're getting it. You want it thicker than pancake batter, but thinner than biscuit, you know, like what we used to call a drop biscuit, you know, the ones that were real messy, so you had to just drop them off the spoon onto the pan. So I don't know if you can see, I will show you my consistency, about like that. See, thick pancake batter. Thicker than pancake batter, but thinner than biscuits. And it's that easy. How about that? We're gonna put our loose lid on it. You wanna put it somewhere warm and just leave it alone for like a week. And then, you know, you're gonna see, you can go and look at it every couple of days, check it, stir it if you want to, you know, tell it, hurry up, come on, do your thing. It makes you feel like you're doing something. If it's a windowsill or maybe by the stove, depending on where you live, somewhere that's a little bit warmer, 70 degrees or so, works better. It's summertime here, so that really won't be a problem. I'm probably gonna just leave it on the counter and we'll come back in a week and see how it's doing. And then I'm gonna show you how you store it without having to continually feed, and how you can even dehydrate this so that you can put it up for long-term storage, and it will keep almost indefinitely, definitely for a very, very, very long time, and you can reactivate it anytime you want. So stay tuned. You're gonna like this, something you can actually do. All right, guys, this is kind of exciting. I have to show you. It's only been about an hour, and we're already starting to get bubbles. Yay! How about that? Okay, now if you don't have bubbles in the first hour, don't freak out. If you don't have bubbles in the first week, don't freak out. Just let it sit. It'll happen. It'll happen. It's actually not normal for it to happen this fast. There's a couple of reasons this is happening so quickly. All right, now one of the reasons that it's happening so quick, well, I did kind of pray and ask God to make it work, so I guess I did kind of cheat a little bit like that. But if yours isn't bubbling, it's okay. You know, just wait, have patience, because like I said, I use fresh ground. I milled it myself, and when you have fresh milled wheat, a lot of the yeast and the enzymes that are necessary to start the process by nature are there. They're present on the wheat. So if you're using store-bought flour, you know, then it's gonna probably take a bit longer. Oh, I forgot to mention this. You definitely need to use unbleached flour. If you're using store-bought flour, make sure it's unbleached, because you don't want these enzymes in there to be dead. Whole wheat is definitely better, but as you can see, it's working really, really quickly. The seeds are helping, and also that homemade yogurt, you know, all those live active cultures are gonna really make a big difference too. So if you're using buttermilk or yogurt from the store, you want to read on the back and get the ones that have the most active live cultures, because it's really going to help you get a good quick start. All right, it's day 2, and I want to show you something. Sometimes this happens. You see that brown like water on the top? It's called hooch. Sometimes that can happen as a sign that you don't have enough flour in it. So what I'm gonna do is just give it a good stir, mix it back in really well. If it feels a little thin, I may add a little bit more flour to it, or I may just leave it alone and give it another day like it is and see if it separates again a whole lot. Then I may just go ahead and add a little more flour. But I wanted to show you that in case that happens. That's really all it is, nothing serious. You just stir it back up, mix it up, and if it's too thin, then just go ahead and add a little bit of flour to it. If it gets a little too thick, a little too clumpy, you can add a little bit of water to it. Just keep your consistency right. All right, stir in a little bit extra ink horn and it almost immediately starts making little bubbles again. It really just loves the ink horn. And you may not have an issue with hooch. One of the characteristics of the ancient grains, especially inkhorn, is that they don't absorb water in the same way that the modern grains do. So you probably will get some separation a little bit more with the more ancient grains like emmer and inkhorn. But the yeast definitely does love it a whole lot more. So you give or you take. You know, you just kind of go with it. It's not a big deal. Add a little water, add a little flour, depending on what you need. You may not need anything, so just check it, stir it, aerate it, let it go. End of day 3. We've gotten a big rise. It's starting to smell very yeasty. Well, you know, sourdough. Yeah, something like that. All right, end of day 4, and as you can see, lots and lots of bubbles, lots of rise. We're actually pretty much at the top of this jar. It smells wonderful, like, you know, bread, mildly yeasty and sweet. It's not a strong beer yeast smell like you get with the modern engineered yeast. This is a natural wild yeast. It's mild and sweet. It smells amazing. I'm gonna probably just let it go till tomorrow, which will be day 5, and then I will be done, and then I'll show you how to store it. All right, guys, it's been about 5 days since we started this sourdough experiment, and I would just want to give you some concluding thoughts as I show you how to preserve this so that you don't have to do continual everyday feedings for the rest of your life and discardings, wasting all of these products. So basically, through the process of creating your sourdough starter that I just showed you, you're going to check it every day and you're going to stir it. And if it needs more flour, you put flour. If it needs more water, you put water. It is good to give it a little bit every day. If you check it, if it's really eating that flour down, it should be getting thinner over time, and you will at some point want to add some more flour in it to kind of feed it. But it's not a constant continual thing. It's just when it's needed, and you shouldn't need to discard anything. But when you get to this point where it's established and you're good, you don't need to do any more feedings after this. I'm going to show you the process to preserve it. So what you're going to do, at this point, you could use this to start making a sourdough bread. I'm going to make another video. The next video that I do will be to show you exactly how to do that and how to convert any recipe into a sourdough recipe very, very easily. I'm going to show you how to use this, how to activate it. You can also store this for, you know, up to 6 months at a time, probably, by dehydrating it, and you're basically making your own sourdough starter kit kind of thing. So you can dehydrate it. I may show you how to do that as well. But all you're going to do at this point, you can use some to make your bread. I made a lot because I wanted to share with a friend. I like these jars because they have, I know you probably can't see it, they have the measurements on it. Shows you 1 cup. When you make a sourdough bread, you're going to typically use, for, you know, an average loaf, about 1 cup of sourdough starter. So you need to make at least that much. But I will show you in the next video how to use it and how to continue using it to preserve. So what we're going to do here, for starters, because I'm making some for a friend, I'm going to actually take about half of this off, about a cup's worth, and put it in another jar. You actually don't even need a whole cup's worth. You just need some. Any amount will actually be sufficient. So I might give about half. So I'm going to put that there. All right, so I'm going to show you this process twice so that you can really see it. One jar is for me, one jar is for a friend. You can do this. You can split this off. You can keep one jar for making whole wheat and one jar for making white bread products, or different flours. Doesn't matter. Keep it simple. So this is what we're going to do. Instead of having to continue the process that I kind of showed you, indefinitely feeding and discarding and throwing away and wasting whenever you don't actually bake bread every day, what you're going to do is take what you made, and we have a lovely, strong, active, just me moving it around, pouring it, it's already bubbling up again, and you're going to put flour in it. You're going to put a lot of flour in it. So I'll do it to this one, and then I'll do it to that one again to give you an up close so you can see up close what I'm doing. So I'll probably be mixing the footage, so that'll make more sense to you. So just put enough flour and stir it in to completely dry this batter up. You want it to be very, very, very dry. You're kind of almost partially dehydrating it with the flour. So put however much you need. Again, you don't need to do a lot of this. You could leave just, 2 tablespoons worth of dough in there and dry it up with that, and that would be enough to reactivate. So basically what you're going to be doing is that whenever you want to make bread with this, you're going to store this in the refrigerator, and it's going to keep indefinitely without feedings. You want to use it. It'll keep for about 2 months, but you want to at least use it once a month. Preferably every other week would be even better to keep it from coming too inactive. You want to stir it up really good. Make sure that everything is dried up. And then once you get it dried up enough, you want to go ahead and pour flour on top of it and completely cover it. So you don't want any air, moisture, or anything getting down to what's in the bottom of this jar. You're going to put it up like this in the refrigerator with the lid on it. Seal your lid. We're going to not be using the cloth lid anymore. You're going to actually be using the sealed lid. You're going to put it up in the refrigerator. When you want to use it, you take it out the night before. You pour a bunch of water in it, let it get really moist again, sit it out on your counter overnight. By morning, it's going to be live and active again. You're going to use that to make your bread that day. We will do a video where I'll show you that whole process in detail and explain to you, how to make these breads and to make it successful. So it's going to be that simple. It's going to be that easy. This is a very simple way to store it where you don't have to keep feeding and discarding it. This is the heritage way to do it. This is how the people did it, hundreds of years ago, when they actually, a lot of times what they would do was take their little piece of sourdough starter, ball it up, get it really dry, and actually stick it into their flour and just leave it there until the next time they were ready to bake. They would take that back out, reactivate it, use it to make their new loaf. Once that loaf was good and risen, they would take a chunk off of it, about a golf ball sized chunk or about a biscuit sized chunk. They would dry that up with the flour, put it back in their flour, and keep it there till the next time. So what you really want to be keeping in your jar, you can keep more if you have more than you need, but you really only need to be keeping about the dough size of a small biscuit or like a little golf ball size amount. That'll be enough to start your next batch. It's that easy. It's practical. It's something you can do. So you're welcome. Go ahead and start your sourdough starter and start trying to make some bread. Don't be intimidated. This is not something that is impossible, complicated, wasteful. That's not how people have lived for thousands of years. We're going to keep this simple and very practical so that you can actually do it. So do it. Leave some comments, leave some pictures. Show me what you made with this. It took me about 5 days to make my sourdough starter, but don't hold yourself to that. It's different. It's going to depend on the flours that you're using, your conditions, your environment, how warm the house is, if you're using yogurt or buttermilk or just starting from water, which you can do, but it will take longer. I'm just showing you the most simplest, easiest, quickest way to get it done. But if you don't have the same results that I did as quick, don't give up. It usually does take a little bit longer of a process. I was blessed. It worked very well, very quickly. And don't get discouraged if your sourdough doesn't look amazing like the pictures you see on the internet of these big heaping, bubbling, overflowing jars. Let me tell you something. A lot of that is movie magic, and they threw some baker's yeast in there to give them a good production. They probably didn't even get that kind of a growth on their sourdough yeast. Maybe they did, but you can't say that they really did. So don't hold yourself to those standards. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. As long as you're getting a rise, you are cultivating some yeast out of the environment, and it'll take a little while to grow it. And over time, you'll get more and more, and you'll get a better feel for it. You kind of have to, get a feel for how much water, how much flour, but you'll get there. So, take it easy on yourself if this is your first time. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just give it a try. So I'm going to show you right now how to preserve it, how to come into the final stage, that once you have cultivated enough cultures. And understand, I may do a separate video on the health benefits of sourdough, that you're not just getting a yeast product, you're getting you're getting a cultured product. So the cultures are going to actually be pre-digesting your flour for you and helping it to be healthier, more digestible. You're going to get some good bacteria in there, along with the yeast and the things that you're getting. It's not just, the baker's yeast that we use today is an isolated 2 or 3 strand really active yeast. It's very stable. It's a little hard on the system. This takes more time, more patience, but it is a lot more healthy, and you don't have to continue to buy things to make your bread. You're doing this at home, so it is a little more sustainable.